In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to create and reference an assembly from your application. Now, there's different types of assemblies, but for our purposes, what we'll do is create a assembly that's packaged into a DLL, and then we'll refer to that DLL within our a simple Windows Forms application. So what we'll do first is create a new application, new project, and we're going to select Class Library, and we're going to call this Automobile, and select OK. And so a new Class Library project will be created for us within Visual Studio. And so after a moment or two, we see our template pop up, and you'll notice here that we've already got Class 1. We're going to rename this to Automobile. And so let's just make some public fields. Now, I agree this isn't the way that you should do them in your real applications. You probably should have some properties that access some private fields so that you can kind of control what goes on. But for the purpose of illustration, I'm just going to do this really quick and make a public make, model, year, and the color. And then also, if you watched the previous video, this will make sense to you. We'll make a constructor and a destructor, but we won't do anything with them. I just wanted to drive that home, that that is part of a class, and feel free to put those in there. Okay, so now that we've created this, what we're going to do is go ahead and save it and compile it into a DLL by selecting Build Solution. And our output box pops open, and we'll notice that we succeeded. That's all we need to do to create an assembly, or rather a class library, or rather a DLL that we'll then use within our Windows application. So the next thing that we're going to do is create a new project, Visual Basic Projects Windows Application, and we're just going to call this 2105 for the name of our lesson, and select OK. And after a moment or two, Visual Studio will create the template for our Windows application. I'm going to close this output window. We're working with limited space here. So what I want to do is whenever I click on a button, let's pop a button on our form. Whenever I click this button, I want to set and then display information about my car. And so what we'll do is we'll create an instance of that automobile class that we have packaged within the assembly called automobile.dll that we created just a moment ago. And we're going to set some of the properties, and we're going to retrieve some of the properties back off. And I'll show you how to do that. But the most important lesson I want you to get from this is that, first of all, we created that automobile assembly. And then secondly, I want to show you how to create a reference to it within our application. Now what we need to do is create a reference. If we don't create a reference, we'll never be able to use that assembly within our application, or the automobile class for that matter. To create a reference to the assembly, what we'll do is we'll right-click our project and select Add Reference. And note that there's a number of different ways to get to this screen. We've just selected what I feel is the most easy, to right-click within the Solution Explorer. And the Add Reference dialog appears. Now there's different tabs that we could select. This will search for all the COM objects within my PC and allow me to create a reference to those, or any projects that I might have. And we'll explain these in future videos. But right now what I want to create a reference to is a .NET assembly. Now I can look within my list of global assemblies that are available to all applications, but I don't see it there, obviously, because I didn't create a global assembly. So I'm going to select Browse. I'm going to navigate to the folder where my assembly resides. It should be in the automobile folder. It should be in the bin directory, and there it is, automobile.dll. So I'm going to select Open. And when I do, notice that it displays here within my selected components. As we'll show in the next video, you can select multiple components at one time. That'll just be a minor point that we make when we're talking about namespaces. But at any rate, let's go ahead and select the OK button here, and what will happen is references will be created. Notice by default that the references folder within our Solution Explorer project will expand by itself, and notice that automobile becomes one of the references that's created within our application. So let's show how to then actually access the values within our class and create an instance of that automobile class. So what I'm going to do is, dim my auto as automobile.automobile. Now, why did I have to name it twice? Well, basically because the first automobile is the namespace. That is the namespace which defaults to the name of the project that we created, and then this is the actual name of the class. And so I just happen to name them the exact same thing. I'm going to show you in the next video about namespaces, about what namespaces are, why they're important, and then how to work around these types of things so you don't have to type in a bunch of weird stuff all the time. But at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and use the convention that you can now use in .NET and feel good about. We've dimmed my auto as automobile .automobile equal to new automobile .automobile. Now what I can do is use my auto. And notice when I do that, it finds all the fields, the public fields for, and the dispose method for the automobile class. So I can set the make, for example, equal to Oldsmobile, and I'm going to describe my first car, the Cutlass Supreme. Well, not the Brougham model, in case you were wondering. Color equals gray, and the year equals 1986. And then we'll pop it back out in a message box. So here we go, message box, my car is a, and my auto.color, and we'll put a space, and we'll do a line continuation character. My auto.year to string. My auto.make model. And then because I'm a conscientious programmer, I'll call my dispose method that I created, although it really does nothing in this case. And just to show that there's nothing up my sleeve, we'll go ahead and run this, and as you'd expect, the form does pop up. And when I click the button 1, it pops up the message box. My car is a gray 1986 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. So I hope that this helped you understand a little bit more about the creation of assemblies and then how to refer to those assemblies and use the classes that are contained within those assemblies within your application. This is a very fundamental tenet of actually going beyond the theory of classes and objects and all that kind of stuff, but actually using them within Visual Basic to create real applications. In the next video, we're going to talk about something that a lot of people are confused on. Admittedly, I was very confused when I first started, and that's the significance and how to kind of use and manipulate namespaces within your applications. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.